Hello hooligans, today we are ranking the characters of X-Men 97. First of all, what an amazing show that was. I waited until all 10 episodes dropped and then I binged it in a couple of days, and I have to say that ending was crazy and I cannot wait for season 2 to come out. Let me know if you guys want an in-depth review on the season, but for this video, I will just be talking about each major character individually and what I thought about their character arc. So there will still be major spoilers and this will be like a mini review. So let's get into the ranking system. All right, so this list is purely my opinion. It's not ranked by how powerful each person is. It's not ranked by how well written they are, although that probably will play a part in how much I like them. But basically, here's how I will structure my tier list. First up are the iconic characters. These are the characters that carried the show in my opinion. They are nothing short of icon status. Right below that are the baddies. These are still really great characters, but just not my personal favorites. Right below that are the characters that were only okay, I fear. And then below that are the characters that I'm gonna need to see more of them. I need them to have more screen time. Otherwise, I really have no opinion about them. And the last tier are the flops. Our first character is Cyclops, the leader of the X-Men, the equivalent of Captain America, although infinitely more interesting in my opinion. Mr. Summers himself, he is nothing short of icon status. I have never seen his powers used in such an interesting way in this show. The fact that he uses it as a way to move around and the fact that he could use it to land on the ground safely. I mean, these are such creative ways to use a power that's, you know, we've seen it a lot in like Homelander and Superman, just basically laser vision, but he used it in such a unique way. I mean, it was iconic. And he also had a lot of character development in this season. I mean, he had to deal with not knowing who his wife was. He had to go through the PTSD of abandoning his kid, even though he himself was abandoned. He also had to struggle with being the team leader, even though Professor Xavier put Magneto in charge instead of him. I mean, they really did a good job writing his story. Also the scene where him and Jean were astral projecting in the cafe with Cable, and then he took off his glasses and then you could see his normal human eyes, and I was like,
wait a second.
All right, next up is Madelyne Pryor. Now, she is mother. Literally, she is mothering. Now, I really feel bad for her because it must suck realizing that all of your memories were kind of faked and that you're actually a clone of the real version of who you thought you were, and then you get mind controlled, and then you almost kill your husband, and then she had to be the one to change her name to Madelyne and then go live on her own. And just when things were looking up, she gets caught in the Genosha explosion and dies. Well, allegedly, because no one ever stays dead. I wish she did get more screen time. However, from what I got to see of her, she is certainly a baddie. All right, next up is Wolverine, our good old Logan pal. Now, what I really liked about this show is that he was not the center, the forefront, because we've just seen him so much in everything else, which is why it was nice to see him take a backseat in this season. But he was definitely still there, contributing to the fights, having really cool moments. He was getting it on with Jean, he was getting it on with Morph. I was like, okay, I see you, player. And now it makes me excited to see him in Wolverine and Deadpool. Overall, he's definitely a baddie, for sure. Next up is buddy old pal Morph, our hopeless romantic. I would be absolutely gagged if Disney actually let them get with Wolverine. Now, I was truly not familiar with this character. I'm so glad that they were such an integral part of this first season. Without Morph, the season would have been really serious. Morph definitely was the comedic relief at so many points. Also, such a unique display of powers. I mean, we've also seen shape-shifting characters a ton, but we've never really seen a character transform into like other major characters. For example, Morph turned into Quicksilver, Morph turned into Hulk. Those were just really cool moments. And I've fallen in love with Morph, and maybe Wolverine will also see the appeal of Morph in the future and get with them. And so I have to put Morph in iconic status, I know. All right, next up is Storm. Now, Storm has always been one of my favorite character designs of all time, just so ethereal looking, so badass. I would almost put her on iconic status just by default. However, this season unfortunately did her a little dirty. She was sidelined for so much of it. She literally lost her powers and then she had to go on her own quest to get her powers back. She missed the entire Genosha plotline, and then she didn't get back until like the last couple of episodes. And then she also wasn't even that powerful at the end. Like, she is an Omega level mutant, right? However, she got defeated really easily by a bunch of robots. I was like, this doesn't feel right. But when she got her powers back and she went all up into space and went bad bitch I'm the bar, alien superstar, that was such an iconic scene. And she even got her full hair back. I was like, that is so cool. So I have to put her in baddie status, okay? Next up is Rogue. I've also always been a huge fan of Rogue, but in this season specifically, wow, she was incredible. I mean, she had so much character, so much heart. I mean, the most emotionally devastating scene was delivered by her when she said, "I can't feel you." Oh, I also think she has a lot of potential left. We haven't really seen her powers used on full display. She's just kind of been this Superman type of character in the show where she just like punches things really strong, flies through the air. But what really stood out to me this season is when she kind of went dark rogue, when she went back on Magneto's side, when she almost killed that human guy, even though he turned out to be a human sentinel. So for the writing alone, I'm actually going to put Rogue in the iconic status. Next up is our good old Southern Gambit. Honestly, justice for Gambit, even though he's probably gonna come back next season because of what Apocalypse was teasing at the end. But his powers are also so cool when they're used. Everything just turns this pink purple color. I really like his dynamic with Rogue. I love whoever voiced him. I would put him in the iconic status, but he also was just missing through half of the season, so I will put him on the baddie list. Next up is Jubilee, who is one of the youngest members of the X-Men with really cool firework explosion thingies. I'm not quite sure the extent of her powers. She even got her own episode where she got stuck in a video game and she had to defeat that. However, even though that episode happened, she still didn't really get any character development besides like this new jumpsuit thing, which looked cool, but she didn't really get any power-ups. And her story didn't really go anywhere. She unfortunately was attached to Sunspot for most of the season. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to put my good girl Jubilee in the only okay category. Yeah. Next up is the Beast. I feel like that's the only way to say his name. The Beast. He didn't get to do that much this season, let's be honest. And then a lot of his scenes were attached to Forge, like they were working on the same things. He's the resident smart guy. The little bit of character development throughout the series is how he was becoming disillusioned by humanity. But other than that, I really needed to see more from our good old Hank. So I'm gonna need to put him in more screen time, please. Next up is Bishop. Now, he was like absent the entire season until the very end, so I'm gonna need to put him in more screen time, please. And honestly, if I were Scott and Jean, I'd be kind of pissed at him for losing Cable in the time stream. I mean, his only job was to make sure that the child was delivered to the future safely, and he flopped that. That almost makes me want to degrade him into the flop category, but I will resist. Next up is Granddaddy Magneto. I'll just say it, he is the best character of the season. I'm putting him in icon status. All of his powers were just so cool. This is an Omega level mutant, and we actually got to see Omega level powers. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see that display of powers from Storm, which is such a missed opportunity. But he also just had so much story to tell. I mean, he's such an interesting character. His backstory of being a part of the Holocaust and being in the concentration camp really explains why his views of the world are the way they are. Also, the show is really smart about how they handled that. They showed his tattoo of what number he was in the concentration camps. They were just really smart, subtle, and really effective. And of course, his relationship with Professor Xavier is also very, very interesting, especially when they went inside his mind. And he always toes the line between villain or hero, and eventually he did become a villain again, but it's so justified. Like, you can understand where he comes from, and I'm sure a lot of people might actually stand on his side, which I don't really know how to feel about that. But it's kind of like Thanos, where you can understand his justification of why he is a villain. There's just so much good to say about Magneto, especially how they handled him in this show. Definitely the best character of them all. Speaking of the best character of them all, it is not Sunspot. I'm going to have to put Sunspot in only okay, I fear. I think he was just not very interesting. They could have done a lot with the aspect of his parents not accepting him as a mutant, but it was just kind of rushed, and he just randomly joined Magneto's side. It didn't feel like there was a good payoff of why he chose that side. And his powers look really cool, don't get me wrong, but Next up is Sinister flop. Yep. I think, you know, his powers of turning into the shadow is cool. I just don't love him as a villain. I don't think he is threatening enough, and it's annoying that he just keeps coming back throughout the season. And I'm like, can we just kill him already? Also, he's just straight up evil, like giving so many characters PTSD. Like Morph has PTSD, Jean has PTSD, like Cable fully has PTSD from him. He's a flop. All right, next up is Forge. I think his power is really interesting. The fact that he could just like invent anything he can think of because his brain cells just like work like that. I wish I had that power, but very much like Hank the Beast, he was just kind of like the smart person of the plot that they needed to figure something out. It's cool that he was like having this little fling with Storm, but it also felt a little random. So I think I'm going to have to need more screen time from him, please. Next is Cable, our sad little boy, Nathan, who I guess we'll see more of next season. I did not know that he was the son of Jean and Cyclops, so that was really cool to see this season. He also didn't contribute too much to the plot overall. It was cool to see him get mind controlled and fight off Jean, which released the Phoenix, but he was kind of just the side character to the other major characters like Cyclops and Jean. And so I'm gonna put him in the only okay I fear category, and hopefully he'll get more screen time in the future. Now let's talk about Jean Grey, the actual Jean Grey. She's just so incredibly powerful. Like I said before, seeing her use the Phoenix again, super badass. Every time she uses her powers, even just in subtle ways like being able to tell the backstory of Bastion just from a painting, all really cool. She's an absolute integral part of the storytelling. I mean, she was just used so many times to tell the context of what is going on. I also really like her friendship with Storm. That line when she said, "I hope you make them mind your weather," and then Storm was like, "I hope you weather their minds," or something. That was so smart. Like, what in the Lin-Manuel Miranda type of line? That could be a lyric in Hamilton. Love her, loved her always. Such a cool character. She is an icon. Next up is Professor Xavier. I really did not care for his plot this season. I found him and the Space Queen, that whole plot where he was getting married for political reasons, just that was a snooze fest. And then when he came back, like the reactions from everyone was just like, oh, the professor's alive. Like, I honestly thought he was gonna stay dead and they were gonna let the rest of the X-Men kind of grow without this mentor figure, but I guess he's too important to kill off forever. But I really just, I did not care for him this season, and I'm gonna have to put him in only okay, I fear. Okay, next up is Nightcrawler. Now, I'm going to put him in the iconic status for mostly because of how cool his powers were. Every time he teleports, I'm like, that looks so cool. And then the second reason he is automatically an icon to me is when he was sword fighting with 3 swords. Hello, that's all the reason you need. It's also cool to see that him and Rogue are siblings and that they have a nice relationship. I wonder when we're gonna be seeing his mother Mystique in the future. Okay, so next up is Emma Frost. I mean, we need more screen time from her. We saw her for like 3 seconds. She was pretty as a diamond, but that's about it. All right, our last character is Bastion. When he was revealed as the main villain and not Sinister, I was like, thank God, because Sinister was so annoying. We needed someone more powerful, more threatening. Also, I believe they said his powers were called technopathy, which is a really interesting concept to be able to control machines. Also, his army of human sentinels, that was like genuinely terrifying, genuinely threatening. I like did not know how the X-Men were going to solve that problem. He basically created like this robot zombie apocalypse fusion. And then when he broke off Cable's arm, slapped him a couple times, turned it into his own armor and grew wings, I was gagged. I was gagged. I mean, he is a certified baddie. Okay, so that was my tier list, my ranking of all the major characters in X-Men 97. Did I have some controversial takes? Let me know in the comments. Also, let me know what your own personal ranking for these characters would be. That's all I had for you guys today. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye. Bye bye. Hi hooligans, thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed that, make sure you like and subscribe. And check out a few other videos I have available right now.